Plaza as the commemoration ceremony of the 23rd anniversary of the September 11th terror attacks are about to begin. And we want to show you this video that just came in. We saw this moments ago. Kamala Harris speaking with, obviously, New York Senator Chuck Schumer. See Kirsten Gillibrand behind her. Joe Biden next to her. Mike Bloomberg seems to be facilitating a handshake between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump just hours after that debate in Philadelphia. The two candidates standing nearly side by side, 2 people apart, and shaking hands as they are now standing very close to where we are here as this ceremony is about to begin.
And the vast majority of crypto owners in the U.S., according to you guys, plan to consider a candidate's digital asset policies when they vote for the next president. 73%. What does consider mean, though? Does it mean a top issue, or it's just in the back of their head?
I do not think it's single issue, right? It's just consider. So what we found in our State of Crypto report is that 3/4 of U.S. crypto holders are considering policies for when they go to the ballot box this fall. So really interesting. I don't think it's single issue. I think that's part of their overall decision.
It's interesting because this year you have had the opportunity for far more retail interest in some ways with the advent of the ETF. But heading into this election cycle, anyone who bought in at that high is now in the red, right? I mean, you did see record movement in Bitcoin prices, but you've seen the longest streak of outflows recently as well. Why buy an ETF if you could just buy crypto?
Depends. Different types of investors out there. What we found in our report is that of the holders of crypto in the U.S., 13% of them first-time crypto buyers through the ETF. So really promising that people are entering the ecosystem now through these ETFs, but there's still a lot of education and growth to go there.
Sonali, we got to talk about the crypto bros because there are a lot of bros owning crypto.
I'm not a bro.
You're not, but according to this report, 69% of crypto owners identify as male, 31% identify as female, compares to 58 and 42% respectively in 2022. The gender gap is widening. Why is that?
It's interesting. So, as you mentioned, what we found is that 70% are male, 30% are female holders. I mean, it's a great representation. I think what it shows is that, for companies like us and for the industry, that we need to, build better consumer products for accessibility and education as well.
How do you do that, though? How do you get more women into crypto?
Yeah, I mean, we sponsor lots of events. Our female leadership team at Gemini does a lot of outreach and education in their communities as well. I think it's really just education.
Bitcoin is very correlated to liquidity. And so, we're about to cut interest rates, even though they haven't hit their inflation target. We're spending $3 billion a day on the interest on our debt. That's double what it was 2.5 years ago. It's triple what it was 10 years ago. They have to monetize all that debt. And so as a liquidity increases, remember, you're exchanging something in abundance, $1 for something that's scarce, which is Bitcoin. And so I think Bitcoin long-term, because we have this explosion of debt, that's gonna outperform relative to the debasement of the currency. Gold does well when you have GDP that's slowing, right? We had 7% growth in GDP in the fourth quarter of 22. That went all the way up to 3.1% fourth quarter of last year, but now that's plateaued. So on a rate of change basis, the economy is starting to slow down.
To pull the vote on the continuing resolution, that is, Republicans don't have the votes to pass it. So now funding for the U.S. government ahead of October 1st, a little bit up in the air as a result of that. Clear that Johnson doesn't have the votes to pass the bill as is. He's in a bit of a political box here over an issue involving checking people's status to vote in elections. That is viewed by Democrats and others as a bit of a poison pill in that bill. The question now is, will he be able to build a coalition to pass that, or will he have to do something else? All that a little bit up in the air right now, Scott.
To some, that the bond market is worried about the Fed being late.
We are definitely worried the Fed is going to be too slow. They were too slow during the hiking cycle. We're worried they're going to be too slow in this cycle. We have our own measure of inflation that puts in real-time housing data. We see what inflation is today. It's a singular issue, really, of housing. You put in real-time data, and we have half the inflation, 1.2 headline, 1.5 core. The Fed should not be slow in getting to neutral. We'd like them to get to 4% below.
The original thesis is that they were going to come in around 7 to 10%. Now, because what we think is going to happen is right now the Fed is proposing this 9% increase. But remember, this is the re-proposal. the banks have to go back through the comment period again. And so it's feasible that the Fed could come down even more than that, because ultimately what the Fed is trying to do here, they're walking a really tight rope. And I'm saying the Fed, but it's also the FDIC and the OCC, is they have to finalize a rule that the banks can essentially say, okay, we will live with this and we won't sue you on it. Because if there's a lawsuit, there is a chance this rule never goes forward. Because if you go into the Fifth Circuit, the Supreme Court, they've been very skeptical of these types of regulations in the past. So the Fed, I think, is trying to come out and say, okay, look, we were wrong with 19%. Let's go to 9%. We will opt out of those banks that are below 250 billion. Those small regional banks between 100 and 250 are now out of this rule. And let's try and come up with a rule where you don't sue us ultimately in the end, because that's something that eventually could stave off the Basel III endgame, even if Kamala Harris wins the presidency.
Welcome to the Crypto Teacher. And you know I come back with that video just to make you think.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.
And make sure you join the Patrons. If you're not a part of the Patrons, make sure you're hitting the Cash App. And guys, make sure you go like and follow the TikTok. New video coming out tonight. And we have 23 years later, 9/11. And we have Trump, Kamala, and Biden at the ceremony. And the thing about it, if you're talking about generations, if you're old like me, we know what really happened. But we know the younger generations are being sold on what actually happened. You know, I'm not going to say what I want to say up here, but right now the NWO is in control, so they control history. They're going to control their story, and it's going to be told to generation after generation after generation, unless you have an older elder to give you the truth. And remember, the Crypto Teacher told you. And then, guys, we have crypto and politics. And we know the two don't mix. Bitcoin was supposed to get rid of the banks and the politicians. And in crypto, we have a gender gap. Why, guys? Because we know the media is selling crypto as for criminals and gambling. And that's the reason why a lot of women are not in the space. But those who have done research definitely fall in love with the space because they know where this is going. So it's definitely all about education. But unfortunately, a lot of times you have to educate yourself. Majority of us in this space, we had to do our own research and educate ourselves. No one gave us the information. And that's the reason why I wrote my book. And that's the reason why I created this channel. So therefore, people can come up here and get into reality, not only learn how the world works, but then also learn the new digital economy. Now we have the Fed going to be cutting rates, and is it going to help Bitcoin? And with the Fed cutting at least 3 times, I definitely see a year-end move up. But then also, guys, we're going to get a new administration. We heard talks of government shutdown already. I don't see it happening just yet because we know this is an election year. But next year, guys, the movie is about to get started. We know it's going to be a movie for 3 years. It's going to be things that we sit back and we be like, man, I knew it was going to be bad, but I didn't think it was going to be this bad. It's going to be bad over these next 3 years. Get yourselves in a lab, get prepared, and especially mentally impaired. Put that armor on. But the Fed is definitely going to be cutting rates, and most likely they're going to be moving slow, and all the timing is around Japan. Now we have Basel III requirements coming out, but guys, we know this is a global agenda. It's definitely going to be approved, and we know these small and medium-sized banks are either going to be consolidated or fall by the wayside. We know with real-time settlement, they're not going to survive. Right now, the banking sector is a fee-based sector. We know a lot of these fees are going to be cut due to real-time settlement, and we know how much liquidity is going to be needed in order to run this fourth industrial revolution. And today, guys, we have CPI numbers higher. Again, the Fed is going to be raising rates. And we see the Treasury still pumping out these 5s, 2s, 10s, but nobody, and I mean nobody, wants this long-term paper. And I put in the Patreon on how China is shorting the dollar and making hundreds of billions of dollars. And remember, the Crypto Teacher told you, And then we have news of Fed's Bostic trading stocks. And we saw the Fed and Congress sell at the top. Last time we had a crash. Guys, we've seen this movie before. And then we have Waymo, Tesla, these robo-taxis. The fourth industrial revolution is definitely going to be rolling on in. But first, guys, we know they need that crisis. And that's why we're going to have the drums of beating, cyber attacks, government shutdowns. 2025 to 2028 is definitely going to be a movie. So sit back, get your popcorn, and let it play out. And remember, the crypto teacher told you, because he knows when it comes to the NWO, it's all planned out. You have a wonderful day.
You will use an app like Uber, but not anymore to call some driver, but automatically guided car, a self-driven car, will come to your hotel or wherever you are and will bring you to the airport. Actually, I had a discussion some months ago with the mayor of Los Angeles, and you know Los Angeles is one of the cities with the heaviest traffic, who told me in 2030 Los Angeles will be private car-driven free. And this will allow to transform highways into parks and other public spheres.
Important breaking news of the morning. Our August read on Consumer Price Index, the last look at this series of data points going into next week's obvious big FOMC meeting. CPI month-over-month headline up 0.2 exactly as expected. Up 0.3 when you strip out food and energy. That's 1/10 hotter than we were expecting. And that equals April. To find a higher, you have to go to March when it was up 0.4. If you look, tell you what, they were just rushing to the table to buy these 10-year notes. We auctioned off 39 billion of them, Kelly. It's a reopening, adding to an issue whose coupon was established about a month ago. So 9-year, 11-month securities, if you want to be detail-oriented. And the yield was 3.648, a basis and a half below the when-issued market at 1 Eastern. What does that mean? Lower yields mean higher prices. The government was a seller. It was a very solid auction. And if you look at the bid to cover, it was the best since just June, so not long ago. But look at the other metrics. Indirect bidders, whopping 76%. That's the best foreign involvement.
There is a flashing red headline that I do want to bring to your attention. It's kind of perfect that we have you in here. The Fed's Inspector General releases a report on Bostic's investments. The Fed Inspector General didn't find evidence that Bostic traded on confidential information. Mike, remind everyone what was going on here.
Well, it's kind of an offshoot of the earlier Fed issues about whether they properly disclosed that it was the Boston Fed and the Dallas Fed. And, even Jay Powell got caught up in it.
I had forgotten that Boston got caught up in it.
Did they disclose accurately what trades had been done? And so the Fed, after the initial round, tightened the rules. And the way the story went, there was Bostic had to refile his financial forms because it turned out that he had that there had been trades made during a time period when there shouldn't have been trades made, which brought up the question of whether there was a confidential conflict of interest. And what Bostic said at the time was that this was a mistake by his trustee who's keeping track of his money, because they didn't realize that the rules had changed. And I guess the Inspector General says, yes, the trades created the appearance of a conflict of interest, but it wasn't him doing something based on confidential information.
So just remind us going forward, and then we'll go back to the inflation data. So things, though, have changed in terms of oversight of Fed officials in terms of trading. Is it what
Yes.
came out of all of this?
Well, they completely changed the disclosure rules, and they have to disclose any trades. They can't make trades at certain times now, and there are some things they're not allowed to trade. So it's a much tighter regime, and we get the financial disclosure forms every year, and they haven't suggested anything bad in a while.
Of this October 10th robo-taxi event and various AI offerings. Stakes are getting higher, though, as autonomous driving leader Waymo releases a safety report. Our Drew DeVos is watching that today in Tech Check. Hey, Dee.
Hey, so Carl, one big number that really stuck out in this report, there's more than 22 million rider-only miles that have been driven through June of this year by Waymo vehicles. That is a more than 200% increase over just 8 months, and really a staggering amount considering how still new this technology is and the fact that it's only operating in 4 cities here in San Francisco, LA, Phoenix, Austin. Might also be surprising given the amount of skepticism still surrounding self-driving cars.
Going to a different economy, and we're going to be learning more about that as we go, but clearly we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leveraged to technology. And I worry that that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
And so we'll import Chinese-based CBDC technology. So it's going to be CBDC in a box provided to you by the People's Bank of China.
But every stock, every bond, every currency, every commodity, every piece of art, every private business, every piece of real estate will eventually be a token on a blockchain, an entry on a ledger, permanent and immutable. We will have truth instead of trust, and we will save over $7 trillion a year. 6 to 8% of global GDP is wasted by the friction of the trust industry that's necessary when you have dual entry accounting. With triple entry accounting, which is what a blockchain is, we get rid of all of that friction. It's a beautiful future.
Like what you see in China and their social credit scoring systems, right? If we get identity wrong, it could be a tool to enslave humanity. And if we get it right, it could be a tool to liberate humanity. And as an American, I'm obviously rooting for the one that's on the side of freedom.
Bitcoin is an international asset. And also, I do believe the role of crypto is, it's digitizing gold.
I actually believe this technology is going to be very important. Look at it. We have been part of the huge revolution in investing through ETFs. We believe that ETFs will be changing the whole way we invest. Many people still use it as a means, people are investing it for indexing. No, the majority of people who are putting money in in ETFs are active investors that are buying exposure. The entire bond market is being transformed as we talk right now. I believe the next generation for markets, the next generation for securities will be tokenization of securities. And if we could have that distributed ledger that we know every beneficial owner, every beneficial seller, we all have our code of who's buying, who's selling, instantaneous settlement. And think about it, it changes the whole ecosystem.
Chinese bank ICBC has been hit by a ransomware attack, and the U.S. Treasury market, as a result of that, has been disrupted. This, according to the Financial Times. We're getting more right now with Bloomberg's Shonali Bassick. Shonali, what do we know?
Listen, we have the Financial Times now reporting that ICBC, one of China's largest banks here, was hit with a ransomware attack. And remember, they're a very significant intermediary in the Treasury market. The SIFMA has told its members that this has been part of the reason here that the system is kind of clogged up, if you will, during that auction that we saw a little bit before. The attack had prevented ICBC, according to the Financial Times, from settling Treasury trades on behalf of other market participants. A large executive at a major bank also telling the paper that such a large party on the fixed income clearing corp creates major concerns, potentially impacting the liquidity of Treasury markets.
Now, it was not just a poor auction. It was absolutely lousy, and when the dealers have to step in to save a Treasury auction, That's a rare occurrence. And
Cryptoteacher and the New World Order book, plus the 3 kids books. It's time to re-educate. Also, if new to cryptos, Coinbase, Bitrue, Binance, do not forget book links and crypto links are in the description. The stock channel, guys. Don't forget to go like, subscribe, spread everywhere. You have your Kobo, your chip stocks, your banking, your gaming. While everybody's sitting at home, get home stocks, the Seaver, the biotech stocks. And while everybody's at home wishing, they were still getting that free money. What are they doing? Drinking and smoking weed. Don't forget about those stocks, and you have a wonderful day. The most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs. And guys, you know I truly believe in this. When you look at the New World Order, they're the storytellers. And that's the reason why I wrote my New World Order book. But guys, now it's time to change the current generation. And I wrote 3 kids books. You know I love the Trinity because I understand the power that's in it. So I have 3 books. We have an opportunity to change the generation, to educate, not just me, but I want to show you that I take action on a daily basis. And I want you to take action on a daily basis. Whether it's your job, whether it's in your community, we have an opportunity right now to educate the masses. I posted this on my Twitter account. Please share, but this is a short clip of the 3 books. There's going to be a clothing line and action figures. Please get these books for your kids, nephews, cousins, friends, so therefore we can start the re-education now. Because as we see, the 4th Industrial Revolution foundation is definitely here. Robots, algorithms, drones, taking humanity out the picture. We have to re-educate. But let's get into the video.
Part 1. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save the village. Part 2. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save New York from COVID Stories 3. Part 3. King Joshua and Grandma Tam goes to China.
It's mandatory to get part 1, part 2, and part 3 of this series. It's time to re-educate Generation Z.